Thank you very much, guys, for coming on this Be Business Worth and Mindset podcast. So this is a special Malawi episode, just talking to you guys as the experts in your different fields, just to get a sense of what I'm calling like the temperature, with the recent changes of on the political scene, for example, how is that feeding into people across different sectors in terms of their expectations of what the government will do, their confidence levels, how things will happen, how they will benefit them, and also just the scene in terms of opportunities and the abilities of people who are out there. Sorry, Brenda is joining. Welcome, Brenda.
Hi guys, sorry I'm late.
That's okay. That's okay. I was just giving a quick. We're just getting started now. So
Okay.
just saying, for those if there's a bit of noise in your background, we're not speaking. Try and put yourself on mute if you can, and then come on as we go along.
So, all right, just give me a second. Let me just. Okay, you carry on.
Yeah, that's okay. So so that's the general idea, but it's pretty much just a round table, informal setting. We get to discuss various things. So first things is just for each one to just give a quick sort of 30 seconds or whatever about themselves, the name, the field they're in, the experience of what they're doing. Just a quick, so that people will get to know, which gurus we're speaking that's so. We just go around the screen in the normal. So start with JK, Kambani, Peter, and then Brenda. So JK, take it away.
Thank you, Alex. I'm Joseph Kamwendo. I work in the energy sector. I'm a senior project accountant for ESCOM. I hold a master's degree in business administration. But in my other life, I also do trade union work. So I'm Treasurer General of the Malawi Congress of Trade Union, and I chair the study network on energy for unions in the energy sector across the sub-Saharan Africa. But all in all, I'm an accountant working with the World Bank and KFW, and that's what we do. So energy sector is our field, and accounting is the profession. Sure.
Cool. Thanks, JK. Quite a lot of useful expertise.
Yes.
So, Mr. Mchiela, over to you.
Thank you very much, Alex. My name is Kambani Mchiela. So just like Joseph, I'm also an accountant. And again, just like Joseph, I'm also in the energy sector. Because I work for a petroleum importing and logistics company. In the capacity of finance manager and company secretary. In my spare time, I'm also a farmer. So I think basically in a nutshell, that's what I do.
Cool. Well, thanks there. So again, useful fields there. So we're going to tap into that. So Mr. Mota, tell me you're not in the energy sector as well.
And I'm not an accountant as well. All right. My name is Peter Mota. I hold a bachelor's degree in education and a bachelor's degree in laws, honors. I've worked before with the Malawi Commerce Commission as this legal counsel, but currently I'm working with the Competition and Fair Trading Commission as chief legal officer for the commission. So this commission was established to promote just competition among enterprises, business enterprises, and to promote rights and welfare of consumers. So that's where I am working as a lawyer at that institution.
Cool.
Yes. And I'm a family man. I'm not a farmer, and I'm a family man. And a sheikh.
I'm sure by the end of this discussion, if Kambani has his word, you'll be a farmer by tomorrow. I'm sure you'll start farming.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he has been my mentor, so I think my mentor is going to teach me some tips of farming. You know,
to farm.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks, Peter. Brenda, over to you.
Hello, hello, hello. I feel very uneducated compared to these guys with their degrees upon degrees and degrees upon degrees. So my name is Brenda. I have a degree in biomedical sciences, but I do not work in biomedical science. So I've been working in telecoms in the UK for the last 9 years. And prior to that, I've done sales of some description in advertising, software, and more recently, I've set up my own consultancy in business development and sales coaching. So that's me in a nutshell.
Oh, thanks, Brenda. I'm sure you have a lot to say about.
Always, always.
Cool. Linda, over to you. Yeah, we've got enough degrees. Tell us for sure you have no degree, please. No chance. Over to you, Linda.
Hi, everyone. I'm Linda Dembo. 20 years of experience in policy behavior change. Yes, hello, everyone. I have 20 years experience in policy behavior change, and a qualified education expert, which means I have a degree in education. And I have an interest in vocational and financial empowerment, asset creation and job creation. I hope you're able to hear me. I also have an interest in sustainable development goals. And I have an interest in the youth being a major priority in the population of the country. You know, the population of Malawi is mainly the youth. So I have a vested interest in the youth, and it's my biggest concern. And the unemployment rates are alarming, and sometimes have to say something has to be done as a matter of priority. So there's need for the government to make deliberate efforts to empower the youth in various skills that will boost Malawi trade and industry potential. So that's why I'm here, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to learn also from the other experts as rightly been put. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Linda. Thank you very much. So I guess I'll just kick it off by.
Did you get that?
Pardon?
Oh, I should say it again.
No. We heard all of that. So yeah, we could hear you. But when not speaking, maybe just put yourself on mute or something, just so there's no background noises around. Yeah. So I think let's kick it off this way. Like you guys, obviously, a lot of us here, we had an opportunity, through KA, because of our ability and potential to do well, whereby the not being able to pay for an education was not a limiting factor, and we got to go through KA and be where we are today. Yeah. So I wanted to gauge currently, like in Malawi, what are the chances that a kid sitting in Chitipa somewhere, or Palombe somewhere, or Nsanje somewhere, who has the ability and the potential, and there's equal opportunities for them to be able to realize the same thing we guys were able to do? What if that is not the case currently? What has changed? What is letting us down? So first thing is that equal opportunity still available in Malawi? Can a child from these areas who is not able at all to be able to pay for their education, but they have the ability and the intelligence and the potential, can they get the same opportunities that we guys did? And if not, what has gone wrong? So JK, let's kick it off. What's your view? Is this still a possibility currently in Malawi?
Alex, my take would be no, a resounding no, because what we had was a system that was able to identify the kids that have the potential, whether they have the financial ability or not. And so they would go through the normal government primary school and be able to get to have a chance to sit for primary school leaving certificate exams and all that. Now, what we have currently is that, yes, the primary school leaving certificate is there, the exams are there, right? But the government schools, they have really deteriorated. So the level of education, the standard of education has gone down. So a kid who is in Chihuahua, for instance, in Nsanje, the first challenge is possibly they will not have the facilities to go to school. Like the school is just a grass-thatched room. That already affects that kid. Ability or no ability. The teachers are not there. We don't have enough teachers. If they are there, then they are not doing their work properly as they used to. They will not have interest to get a kid to go to school and do well. Now, beyond that, the schools that if the kid happens to be still very bright and has a chance to go to a government secondary school, we still have a situation where a government secondary school has to be paid for. And if the parents cannot afford, and no organization like people like the Lindas of this world, if they don't come up and help this kid, then this kid's future is doomed, unlike what we went through and what we had. So in a nutshell, my take is the landscape has changed. The standard of education from primary and secondary mainly has gone down. We don't have the teachers and all that needs. The support system is currently not there. So the chances of a kid in Nsanje, in Chitipa, who has the ability but doesn't have the financial muscle, it's very, very difficult.
So in a way, we seem to have gone backwards then. What's your take, Peter Mota? What's your view?
Thank you so much. I think I would agree with Joseph to say that, there is no system of identifying students that are deserving, students that are geniuses, so to say. Due to this lack of this system that would identify these students, then he would not have these students, going up the ladder as we did that time. I would also say that, there is no equalization of opportunities. You remember in the past, we were very happy to go to public schools. And those people, we used to look down upon people who went to private schools, saying that, no, they were not high schooling students. They had to go to private schools. But now it's different. We look up to people who go to private schools and look down upon people who go to public schools. So those people who have money, those people who have the opportunity to go to private schools are the ones that are receiving better education, and the ones that are will proceed to have better education when they move up the ladder. So I would say we have problems now. So it's not like the same that we had last in the past when we were students
as before. So I guess because I mean from a development point of view,
yes,
each person, even from an individual point of view, like as a person, and then you move on as a family, as a community, as a district, and then as a state. We all hope to be moving forward as time goes by. If you look at this KA, it's been now 30 or 20 years when this institution was established, and the time of Kamuzu. He seemed to have had this vision of education and all of that. But from what I'm hearing, we seem to have gotten backwards in a way, rather than move forward in terms of affording people who have the ability, the opportunities for to realize that potential in that way. However, I put it this way, that all these things we are talking about having the right infrastructures, how useful education is for people. I don't think the administrations that have been before were not aware of these kind of things. I'm sure if you go 20 years, there are probably policies and things which talk about education here and here, but nothing has materialized. So what could we put this down to? Is it a question of the leadership lacking vision to implement the same? What has gone wrong for us in Malawi, just generally? So, KM, Mr. Mchiela, what's your take on this issue?
I think my view on that would be it's really about the leadership, lacking the vision. Because I think what we have seen in the past, few years, almost maybe 2 decades or so, I think there hasn't been, serious investment in like what we're talking about in the education sector. And I think that's what my colleagues are talking about there to say that if you look at the state of public schools now, it's simply pathetic. I think there's no other way to put it. So what you find is those who can afford would definitely rather take their children to private schools. So I think it's the issue of maybe leadership lacking the vision, as well as maybe lacking the sense of prioritizing to say which are the sectors that we need to invest in for long-term economic improvement in the country. So that has really damaged our school systems, and obviously that has implications on the economic growth potential of the country, because what we end up with is not the level of education that we would want to take the country forward. So I think those, in my view, would be the issues, to say maybe lack of vision, as well as maybe lack of prioritizing, to say which are the sectors that are really important for us as a country to move forward. And I think education should actually be at the top of that priority list.
Yeah, because I guess I remember in the old days, you'd probably have a child of a government minister maybe going to the same public school as the child of a guard or someone like that. But now there's almost like a 2 or 3 tier system, in the sense that the CEOs or whoever will have their kids you guys are saying in private schools. So Brenda, what's your experience of what you hear or see on the ground happening from relatives or people
I think everybody's pretty much touched on what the pinch points are or have been. I was just doing some quick sums in case you guys were wondering what I was doing. So Kamuzu Academy was launched in 1981. It took a few years to build, to actually have students start attending the school. It was allowed to exist in its intended form for about 13, 14 years before it was systematically dismantled. Now, if you look at, and this is just a very generic view from the outside, and from people I know, if you look at the quality of education that people received in that 12 to 13 years and what that pipeline has produced in 2020, if we look at Parliament, we've got alumni from KA in Parliament, we've got alumni in power, we've got alumni in the judicial system, in health, people that we went to school with in that time period. Now, systematically, that was all dismantled. So a pipeline was created to churn out doctors, nurses, educators, lawyers, engineers, and it obviously worked, because from those 13 years, we can see the results. And then the system got dismantled. It was not a visual plan where it was, this is not for today, because what we're seeing today is almost 40 years later. So the system to be allowed to really produce the caliber of people that we want and need in this country to succeed, to be at the levels we need to get to come out of that bottom top 10 poverty list year in, year out. It needs to be systematic. It's not going to last one president's lifetime. It's not going to last one government's term. And removing education systems and plans and visions from political alignment is what I believe needs to happen, because as soon as the vision was removed, it became more about quantity not quality.
Mm.
The pipeline was dismantled. So even if we take away KA out of the bubble that it is, because that's a very elite level of education, you know, not very many people in the world learned Greek or Latin like you guys did, and so on and so forth. So even if you take them out, if you look at the level of education people were getting in that time period before it became about quantity rather than quality, and then we had the private sector trying to fit in a gap, you know, fill a gap for the need for quality, and therefore people who could afford send their kids. That pipeline's been dismantled. That's why we don't have the good quality teachers in government schools. That's why we don't have the good quality nurses. We don't have the good quality police force. We don't have the good people's levels of education have gone down massively because of underinvestment, lack of vision. And from my perspective, I think it's about time as a country we demanded quality, more bang for our buck. So we need to get more out of every kwacha that we spend in education. We're going to send kids to school from ages 5, 6, all the way to 18. What are we doing in those 18 years? Because the result is we come out with people with degrees and they want to learn, and it's not their fault that they're not afforded a good quality education. And we know it can be done because we are a product of that system.
Yeah, I think that's quite comprehensive. I think JK, you had a comment on that.
Yeah, Alex, colleagues, we what we're saying is the reality on the ground, and as Brenda is putting it, it's been a system, right? So if you're putting up a system, the calculations she was making about how long it took KA to produce the results that we're seeing today, it's been a long-term plan. Okay, so what I see, Kambani mentioned it, leadership. Now, it's not, I don't know, when we say lack of vision is where I guess we don't know where we should be going. But what I see is that our leaders know where we should be going. But then the problem is the political aspect of it. Look at the time we had Kamuzu. Kamuzu had a perpetual term of office, as it were. So what he was doing was he was systematic in what he wanted to achieve over the long haul. Now, what we get, our politicians now, is that I have a 5-year term and I'll be going into an election. What do I do that within the 4 years, I should impress a lot more people and be able to get back into office for another term of office, for another 5 years? So they're dismantling the long-term investments that we need in education, all right, in getting people to understand what they need to do, their civil rights and stuff. So they would dismantle all that and get something that would get everyone to quickly appreciate what they're doing. By doing that, they also instilled something in the people that you always have to do something that will give you results immediately. That's how corruption came through. Because everyone was saying, why wait for the long haul? Why wait for 10 years to be able to get results? And then you see that even the people that are really not as educated, what they will do is they'll do a business that should give them money tomorrow. They'll not go into farming like Kambani. They'll think, come on, for me to reap the results of this would take me 10, 15 years. So they would rather get into a government office, get a contract through corruption and supply commodities at exorbitant prices, and immediately you get the results. So by doing that, we created what Brenda was mentioning, a different pipeline, a pipeline that was full of politicians and people that didn't want to do what was right. They didn't want to wait that long. And by doing that, everything then crumbled. So we get to what you were asking, Alex. How did we get here? We got here slowly but surely, people trying to get political offices, and everything just crumbled. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks, JK. That's So I mean, could this be like those unintended consequences of let's say multi-party democratic processes or something? You know, because in every system, I guess you get pros and cons. Yeah. So now you have this short-sightedness of politicians. I've just got 5 years. I mean, if you're going to have a long-term vision to build something that is beyond yourself as a leader, it's something that will take 20 years, 30 years. you studied is going to be finished by other people. But you know, where is the incentive for the leadership to do that? That's why it just comes into their own, you know, 5-year term and get to do stuff for them or the people around them. So, but having said that, I'm sure there's examples of countries who have prospered and done well even with this system. So why are we failing? Or what can we do, if anything at all, to actually reverse that trend? I mean, assuming, let's say, Peter or Kambani or JK or Brenda, you know, you had the mandate tomorrow, you're president. What would you do to reverse this trend? What would be the strategy, if at all it's possible to reverse? Who? Peter, take it away first. Mr. Peter Mota, president tomorrow, 100 days in office. What's the first task? Bearing in mind what you know now and what we're discussing, what's the way to reverse this trend? I think you're on mute, Mr. Mota.
Yeah, right. I think to begin with, I would say that okay, in the past, people could feel the importance of education. They would go to school, graduate, and instantly maybe get a job, or maybe get a capital to start a business. But that is not what is happening now. You go to school all the way to university. You have a PhD, you have a master's degree, 2 masters in fact, but you're useless. You're not employed. You're not doing any business. You don't have capital to set up your own business. So I think if I become president today, then I would make sure that, you know, my citizens see the importance of education. You know, people should not just go to school for its own sake. They should see that, you know, if when I go to school, this is going to, what is going to happen to me? I'll have maybe a better life in the future. But if you can't see the benefit of education, then you would rather not go to school, maybe go to South Africa and get money and come back. And what Joseph said, you know, fight your way through the system, get contracts, and then be somebody in society. So when I go, when I become a president tomorrow, what I'll do is to make sure that, you know, people should feel that education is good and education is beneficial to them, to their lives, and to their societies. When this is done, then people will be serious with education. So this is only one aspect. I think my friends will add on that, but I'll do make sure that happens.
But then what about for those? Because I'm sure there'll be people who would like to go to school and get the education, but they have no money to actually go.
Yes. Yes.
So how would you tackle that one? Because obviously, from a government point of view, you need the money to actually build that infrastructure and get it going. So is it a question of the government saying they don't have the money to invest in that infrastructure over a long period of time? Because once you do, go on.
The money is there, and what my friends have already said, you know, the vision is what is lacking. So it's like people are not looking ahead into the future to see. They don't have a vision for education. So in short, I think they don't have that vision. So whatever they are doing now, they will not they will not achieve anything because they don't have a vision in the first place.
So I guess I think Brenda mentioned, are the leaders these days not interested about the legacy or leaving any legacy? I mean, now if you talk about Kamuzu, you've got Kamuzu Academy, you've got I think they reinstated the names like Kamuzu Stadium or the airport, the universities and all those. But look back at the leaders who've been and gone. Is there anything that you can point out to them as a legacy that they've left? Kambani, what's the view?
I think I may not be in a position to actually point to say, okay, this president, this is what they have done. We may get political. but I think just to comment on the general situation that we're discussing about the education, I think Peter has mentioned that we just need that focus and agreement in consensus to say that we can't develop this country without an educated base, an educated population. So I think that would be the starting point to say that will help. I think the government to focus their efforts. And in terms of, when we're talking about investment in the education sector, and as you rightly mentioned, that obviously the investment, we're talking about money. So the point is that I think the money is available. I think we have seen in the past few months. I think we're even talking about the way just the past election has been handled. People are wondering to say, okay, how are we going to to finance or to fund the election on our own? But we saw the funds coming out. So it goes back to the issue of prioritizing and ensuring that we are plugging all the the loopholes that are there that gives the politicians room to siphon funds out of the system. And I think in the past few weeks we have noted, we have heard of so many stories about corruption and the quantum or the value of the losses that we are talking about is hugely significant. And I think some people have done calculations to say, for example, if this amount of money was lost through just pilferage from government coffers, this amount could have actually built so many schools. So I think in terms of the money, I think that question really is well answered to say we do have the funds that can significantly improve our our education system. And it's not only education. So we're talking about even in the infrastructure, the health systems. So we just need that mindset change really from the leadership. And I hope that, we're hearing, from the new government that they are, going to be serious about these things. But we'll wait. We'll give it time to see that whether the rhetoric actually translates to real action on the ground. Because we have heard these stories before. We have, new governments coming. They always, talk about what they are going to do. But the challenge, I think, sometimes is when they now go into the system. So it's almost like a baptism. They're baptized into the system that already exists. Then the same, the cycle continues, and then we start complaining. And as Joseph also mentioned, I think the other challenge is, the system, the democratic system that we have. It's very short term. You find they've got 2-3 years to work. By the time they're getting to the 4th year, they're already thinking about the next election. So it gives us very little time to focus on, on development issues. So it may also help, I think, maybe to, as Brenda mentioned, I think she talked about the political interference and so on and so forth, that maybe we could build stronger institutions which should actually, have a vision beyond, the political five-year term that the political leaders will have. So I think if we could have those, stronger institutions which are, separated from political interference, so that they actually focus on the economic development of the country. They are looking at longer term, maybe 10, 15, 20 years, projects that will actually benefit the country. Then maybe that would be the best legacy, in fact, that the current leaders can leave behind, to say we've put in, this system that looks at the long term. It's not really looking at them finishing their term and then all the credit going to them, but it's something that we, as a country, we can collectively, stand up and say we have done this for the country. So I think the long-term view is what would really help for us to move from where we are to the next level. Thank you.
That's a very, very good point, actually, because like we keep saying, none of the stuff we're talking about here is new. The leaders, they are educated enough to know what they need to be doing and also, but nothing is happening. So, like you said, there's almost a need for some organization somewhere, maybe, not even have any political influence or whatever, to sit above everything so that you can actually coordinate with government and the private sector, especially. Because the private sector has got a big part to play as well. If they want to pump money or whatever to help, it's very tricky for them if they are giving it to government or whatever. They look like they're being political or something. But if you can have a body that sits like a fund, which its main objective is the long-term objective in infrastructure of the country, so that if they are doing projects, there are projects which are going to take 20 years or 30 years to do. So governments will come in and out or whatever, but this fund, its objective is clear. I think countries like Singapore, Malaysia, or even some of the Middle Eastern countries, they have those sort of funds which sit independent of governments. And I think in the absence of that, you get this cycle of the politicians, there's all this expectation, we'll do this, we'll deliver that, and people get all hyped up and excited, and and then they come into power, as Kambani said, they get baptized into the system. And then 2 or 3 years goes, nothing has happened, and then somebody else comes up, I'm gonna do this, I'll do that. People get too excited, okay, they come in, and then they have their 2 or 3 years, nothing happens. Somebody else comes in the same. So you end up in this perpetual cycle of promises not happening. And the end result is, like JK said, the system which was built is destroyed and nothing is in its place. Everything is short term. So Brenda, you had there something to add to that.
Yeah. I always have a problem with it needs to start with the leaders. That always sits really uncomfortably with me. I've just made a quick note. I've written prioritizing, accountability, then planning. Malawi is not short of brains. I can promise you. Malawi is not short of people that understand what a transformation education can give you. So I think the people that give up and see no value in education are very few and far in between. Most people understand that if they work hard at school, if they get opportunity to go to university, Malawi has so many people applying for scholarships. Probably in any country in the world, you'll find a Malawian student on a scholarship. I don't think that's where the problem is. I think the problem comes in the fact, somebody spoke quite well about that, in the sense that our civil service, so terms are 5 years. America has 5 years. The UK has 5 years, but we change every so often. Loads and loads of systems around the world don't have 30 years for somebody to see, or one party to see that through. However, I don't expect my children here in the UK to start on one curriculum in a government school and never to finish school and never to be able to plan until the end of their educational or primary, secondary and tertiary education at the very least. The frustrating things in Malawi is that because the systems have been dismantled at every level, corruption has been allowed to seep in at every level. So yeah, the leaders are doing it and doing it massive. Somebody's legacy was Cashgate. Imagine being known around the world as the leader who presided over Cashgate. So when I say presidents don't care about their legacy, I think they just think, as long as I'm okay, my friends are okay, my family's okay, what do I care about what people think about me? What do I care about how I leave the system? But that being said, people at the top are enabled at every level, that we do not seem to have a pride in what we have, natural resources, the brains that we have. Malawians are very well spoken. We're a very peaceful country. We've never been at war. And yet we struggle with countries that are in perpetual civil wars. And this is not, for me, from what I can see, it's not a case that our terms are too short. I think that we have systematically, to the benefit of those in power, to the benefit of a very few people, allowed the systems to be in such disarray, in such chaos, that people don't know where they're coming or going. So if Peter comes in as president, great. He's going to say, I need you guys to do X, I need you guys to do. But if every civil service, we have got a civil service, we've got a civil service that's supposed to run with supposed to deal with the administration side of the country, and say, right, we are going to have X amount of money to spend. This is education. This is how money gets from A to B. This is how we make sure that teachers are trained to a certain level. This is how we make sure that our nurses are at the right level. And that if we've said that this is a minimum payment, minimum wage, this is what happens for people to get that minimum wage. We have all of those things in place, but nobody cares. And I don't blame them. Why should they? It's going to take a big, massive leap of faith for people to say, it's going to start with me. I'm going to turn up to work on time. I'm not going to take that 1,000 kwacha, that wasn't meant for me. I'm not going to pocket it because, oh, well, somebody else is going to do it if I don't do it. And I think that since 93, 94, 95, that's been the psyche of the country, and everything's falling apart around us, but we're not holding anybody to account. And we just want to hold the few at the top that have corrupted the whole system, and they've gained the most from the system. But if I was to ask you guys, what have you done to support the system? What have you done as Peter, as Kambani, as Joseph, as Alex, to ensure that the system's on the straight and narrow? I want to leave on one note. When we were young, we were called born frees, right? Everybody remember, my born free, my born free, my born free. And we were told and we were promised we were going to rule Malawi tomorrow. We're still being ruled by people that were born Tawiya Tamunda.
Well, Rodrigue is taking over next election, so we are good. JK,
why are you laughing?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Alex, Brenda has really pricked on the Malawian side. I like that pricking. I like that pricking. Two things I wanted to talk on. One, what Kambani said, the need for a mindset change. Now that mindset change is possibly Brenda tackling one side of that, which is the citizens, right? Kambani, I think, tackled it from the leadership point of view, right? That the leaders need to change their mind. What Brenda was saying, legacies. It's not like we have a short terms of office. No, the terms are all right, but they have decided to use that, as you were saying, Alex, that maybe the unforeseen consequences of democracy, as it were. The leaders have used this to their advantage, right? So we need to change mindset from the leaders, looking at, they should start talking about legacy. They should start thinking about a legacy they want to leave. But then, on the other hand, we need a mindset change on the citizens. I think we have not held our leaders accountable on things. Because look, I'll tell you what, there is a blueprint in government, I think, that talks about the 20-year vision of the country. It's there. There are people there. There are big brains around there. I know one, Dr. Montali, I think he's heading that department. It's a department that has been meant to look at the long-term vision of the country, that whether governments come and go, they should still follow that. But you see that not much would be said about that. Okay, we, as Kambani said, the new leadership is sort of talking about it and saying, okay, we'll go towards that. But if we all sit back and say, okay, they're talking about it, and we keep quiet, after a year, nothing is happening, that's what the citizens do. We all sit back. And that's why I'm saying it has to be mindset change. Mindset change on the part of the leaders and mindset change on the part of the citizens, so that then we start holding each other accountable, both our leaders and what Brenda's saying, our colleagues. One, I think during the campaigns, one of the candidates will say, you'd see someone who today is working on bare feet with a diploma in his hand. In 6 months, this guy is driving the latest Range Rover, and no one questions. All of us go to him and say, you're the big guy, eh? Big guy, big guy. What nonsense is this? You can't be calling him big guy. You should be asking him, where have you got the money? So you'd find that because we are not holding each other accountable. We are not holding our leaders accountable. When leaders give us a manifesto, we all forget after we vote. We all forget, we leave them. Then they'll come back with a different tone, and there was this challenge, there was that challenge. So mindset change would encompass all those things. Kambani talked about the resources. We have the resources as a country. I mean, look at the money that is stored across government systems. It's a lot of money. If this money was properly invested, I'm sure we should be talking a different story now. At least the basics would have been right, would have been talking of the next level. So I believe that we need to start looking at these things now with that intensity, that it is our country, it is our responsibility, and we're going to start holding each other accountable.
Cool. Thanks, JK. Now, I put it maybe this way, that you know, when someone or people are looking to effect a certain element of change, there is such thing as what is the support, or how many other people are willing to fight with you, in the sense that something gets started. I'm thinking, if you look at Martin Luther King, like all those years ago, the message that he was talking about civil rights and other things, there's probably some bits of what he was fighting for which have happened or have taken place. But where people get discouraged, like we were talking earlier about this COVID, you have millions of people, are coming, let's say, from a football thing or whatever. They don't believe about all this COVID thing, or even if they believe, they're not taking it seriously. There are a few, maybe 3 or 4, who take it really seriously. They want to effect the change. They want to do something, but the gradient is so steep, that it's gonna take them 1,000,000 years to achieve what is required to be achieved. Isn't that the point where people get discouraged, said, I'm just me. Okay, we are saying it starts with us as individuals. You know, how many of us, let's say there's a few of KF people or some other people out there, but when they start to go with the system, either a lot of people, the mentality is different, and it gets there. For me, I see it like, for those who have the vision, start feeding it either through the education system to the youngsters, so that they are the ones who eventually will have a different mentality and a message that will lift everyone. But for us, for me, let's say, I know and I understand I need to do something. We have to effect change. As soon as I start speaking, I go here and there, people will just probably come and sit me down. Hey, Asabala, this is how things work here. What are you doing? And before you know it, you can't do the things that you want to do. You believe in it, you know it, you understand it, you know that's how things should be. But the system just collapses somewhere. So I think it's almost a generational thing. It has to be fed maybe through the youngsters somehow. But otherwise, the messages we keep talking about, we keep understanding, like JK, you're saying, there's educated people there who have PhDs or whatever. They understand all these things, the mentality, the mindset, everything is there. But as soon as you start to go there and change it, it's like an entirely different ballgame. So what is it that can really be done? And I guess, what's the role of collaboration? Maybe someone taking this by the horns and saying, okay, I'm gonna do something, but I'm gonna collaborate and take people that you need with you. People who are singing the right messages, the right songs. They say they can do this, they can effect change. Hold them to accountable, but really grasp that leadership. I think that's probably something that we need from someone, almost someone who is willing to sacrifice some either time or whatever of themselves for the national good. Those are the people who become like national figures or national heroes. But as long as we start thinking, oh, just for me and I'm comfortable and okay with my thing, everyone else, then everything goes out of the window. So, Mr. Mota, now I wanted to talk now about entrepreneurship. So we're talking about, obviously, education and the role, and probably this feeds into the corporate structure where people become CEOs and and senior figures in companies or corporations. What is the role of entrepreneurship and business, for example? Should people be taught or go into other ventures, not so much the education to be either a lecturer or a CEO or something, but education maybe of a vocational nature for people to be electricians or plumbers or IT specialists or these other vocations rather than to follow the corporate ladder. What's the view in Malawi around that in terms of is the environment conducive to that? Are people aware of that, and do they get to practice that? At this stage, we welcome Susan as well. Susan is joining us. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Fine, and you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. We're just carrying on with our roundtable general discussions. So welcome to the discussions. We'll come to you in a sec, but I was just posing a question. I don't know whether JK heard me as well. And this was around like all the stuff we've been talking about education and people getting through the system is almost leading people into the corporate ladder where they get to get good jobs or work in particular sectors and fields. Yeah. But what is the role of, because business and entrepreneurship is also quite a sizable and significant component of the economy. What is the environment now in terms of its conduciveness to allow people to develop that entrepreneurial side of themselves, to go into either other vocations of maybe businesses like, it could be plumbers or electricians or transporters or all that kind of thing. What's the view around that? We start off with Kambani. What's the view?
Okay, so I think in terms of the environment, I think the starting point would still be on the education side. I think our education system at the moment is still structured in a way that it prepares us for, to go into jobs, to working for, for a corporate, working for, for an already existing business. So I think that would be the starting point where maybe we may, as a country, we need to look at how our education is structured, whether it incorporates that element of training or preparing our learners, towards entrepreneurship as also an avenue, rather than just thinking to say, once I finish my school, I would go to look for a job, to apply for a job somewhere. So I think maybe that would be the starting point. But on the other side, in terms of the vocations, I know that I think in the past few years, even the previous government, they talked about increasing focus on technical schools. So we did get a view to say that there were a number of technical schools that were running, but I think also they helped them to improve in terms of capacity for them to be able to deliver the type of training for, like you mentioned, talking about people training to become plumbers or electricians or whatever. So most of of the people in that group would obviously go into starting their own businesses, and for the ones that manage the business as well, they'll go maybe even further, employing other people to help them in the business. So that helps in terms of improving the employment numbers. But I think on the government side, there's still, you hear quite a lot maybe about issues of most of these people operating those businesses, but in the informal sector, there's a tendency to maybe avoid registration for purposes of, when they hear about taxation, they are not, really happy to say, okay, I'm only starting my business, but already MRA is bouncing on the business. So I think that is an area where maybe it needs to be looked at, to say, is the environment really conducive to help, especially for those that are just starting up, to help them, say, maybe in the formative years, at least the first year, 2 years, 3 years, at least they get maybe some sort of exemptions from tax, whatever, just to help them build the business. And then also to formalize the businesses by registering them. So I think those would be the areas where I think that in terms of entrepreneurship, that's where maybe we may need to look at. But also, apart from just the normal training that they will get, for example, for an electrician, I think there is need to go further to say, how do we make sure that they have the business skills, the financial management skills, for them to be able to ensure that the businesses that they start are actually sustainable. Because I think what will normally happen is you hear somebody maybe starting a small business, but there are cases where within a few years that business is no longer there. Then usually there's a case of maybe they had the good idea, but they may not have had the right business management skills. So those would be the areas where they can further be trained to ensure that they can start sustainable businesses that would that can even outlive the founders, so that you have businesses that will continue for a long time. So I think those would be my comments in that area.
Cool. No, very, very useful feedback there. So Susan, if you can just give us a quick 30 seconds about yourself. Actually, you should have given us that. Just
Hi.
your name, experience, and work and all that. Yeah.
Susan Kotokwa. That's my maiden name now, Kotokwa-Masiku. I have the first degree I did was in Bachelor of Arts, and from there I've run for over 25 years, and I've had the opportunity to do my law degree, and I've just been recently admitted to the bar. So my basic concept is in business and it's in education, which is what I've done for such a long time, and administration as well. So most of the policies I with education and children welfare.
Yeah.
That I think is the basic one.
Cool, thanks, Susan. So we've just talked about how the system has almost collapsed, in the sense that if you look at those of us who went to KA, in those good years of Kamuzu, we had the ability and the potential to do well, but the fact that we're able or we're not able to afford an education was not a limiting factor. We still had a chance to be able to prove ourselves and get an education without the need to pay for. And we talked about how that system has almost collapsed now, in the sense that there's almost a 3-tier system now, whereby education is afforded to the privileged few, either CEOs or whoever, who can afford to send their children to those kind of expensive institutions or private schools where they're able to pay. And then understanding why that has been the case in terms of the leadership and the short-term view that they have now, in terms of not having that long-term vision to build the infrastructure that will last for generations and generations, and bring out a pipeline of people. Like Brenda mentioned, that if you look at KA, the people who have come through KA, a lot of the benefits that are coming out now, like people like yourselves in the legal profession, if you look at the Chifundos, if you look at CK in Parliament and a few other areas, that is a pipeline that has taken years to come through, and something that will benefit the country, sometimes it needs that long-term view to an extent that as a leader, you start it off, yeah, you're not going to finish it. Maybe some other people who come before you will finish it, but are not in your lifetime. But now, because of the short-term nature of leadership, like you have 5 years to rule, you know, you're just looking at what can I do to benefit from that. So maybe give us your take around that view in the sense of how do you see the system the way it is now? What has failed us to break down this system, that there's no investment in infrastructure for the long term, and also maybe the leadership failing us in some way, if you see it that way, to actually lead us in building those so that we're actually progressing rather than moving backwards in helping Malawians. What's your take?
Okay, hi. I'll just answer on one side of, I think, education. For someone who has taught for over 20 years, I can see the way the system is, the way it is actually failing, okay? It is because things like ministries, we have politicized them. We need people who need to work within the system. Yes, we can have the minister as a political appointment, but if we take the basic department and not let it do what it's actually supposed to do, for the 20 years, we've changed the system in books probably 4 or 5 times, okay? For me personally, it didn't take the system was very good, KA was very good, but because everybody wanted to come up with a new system, the old system worked. My take is we need to go back to the old system and understand how it worked. Believe you me, children are getting to standard 4 without being able to read. Now, if our foundation is completely out, even if we change the system, you're getting to secondary school where children are failing to understand everything else. So if you take that to tertiary, it means as much as we want them to be entrepreneurs, we are giving them a very weak base. We need to go back to our basic foundation, which is from primary school to where we are now. Okay, I still believe that Timve and Tala book is the best. And when I'm teaching my children, I take that basic one, because as much as we want to instill entrepreneurs, but as Kambani said, we are focused on, I'm going to finish school and I want to get a job, isn't it? Yeah. But our foundation is the one that's breaking down. So people need to sit down and understand that, I mean, this year or next year, they're talking of scrapping the books that they introduced 3 years ago, which we voiced out and said they're not going to teach the children how to read. Children are failing to read. So the crumbling is going all the way to the base. So we are destroying our system from the base. We can't fix the top if we don't have a good foundation. That's what I need. And the other point I want to say, businesses, not only entrepreneurs, we are struggling in businesses that have been there for over 25 years, that grew at one point in time. But why are they failing now? We need to understand that. Some of our tax laws are making it difficult because business doesn't work 100% all the time. It goes up, it goes down. How do we deal with when the economy is down? Are we helping those businesses to build up? Because it doesn't make sense for a business that's been there for over 30 years to fail now. Yes, businesses go through whatnot, but what is our whole system as a whole doing? Are we giving ourselves unrealistic goals, unrealistic tax expectations, we need to look at what has happened. We need to look at it like climate. Okay, what was there 30 years ago? What was there 20 years ago? What is going on wrong? And that is the root of what we need to do. We need things to work at the way they're supposed to work, not to just work on paper, because most of the things are working theoretically, they're working on paper. They're not working practically. I think that's what I can give in so far.
No, that's a very, very good take on that, Susan, actually, especially that point you're making about the theory is well understood and people are sort of understanding the theory, what we should do and all of that. They are probably writing PhDs or master's papers and whatever. Like we said, if you go back 20 years, you'll find all this stuff we're talking about is there. But the implementation and, what are people actually doing about it? And are they moving against the gradient to actually get us to where we need to be? Maybe that leadership where it's actually sitting, if it's sitting on a political scene, maybe that is the problem. Maybe it should sit somewhere else outside of politics so that it can have a mandate that is beyond 5-year term or 10-year term or so much, so that it actually be doing and building things for the country for the long term rather than for the short term. Winnie, welcome, Winnie. So,
hi everyone.
I think you've been listening in all the various discussions and conversations that's been going on. So first, give us your 30 seconds and then take us through your thoughts.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Winifred Mwafulirwa. Most of you know me as Winnie Kalimba. But times have since changed. I am a qualified accountant and currently working in agribusiness. So if you need some tips, you know who to go to. But yeah, just very interested to contribute. Unfortunately, I couldn't really prepare for as much as I wanted to, so I'm listening in the background. But basically, I just wanted to make a quick comment, maybe 2 quick comments. And I know the conversation has been centered around Malawi, the privileged child versus the less privileged child. But I just wanted to expand it a little bit and say that we are now living in a global environment. So generally just looking at whether privileged or not privileged, but are we getting the right education and are we getting the right skills to be able to compete on a global environment? And to be able to answer that question, I ask myself whether I would take my child to a Malawi school or would rather take them somewhere else for their education. And when I look at the future for my child, do I see that future in Malawi or do I see it outside? It's a conversation that I've had with my husband on several occasions, and we've always sort of defaulted to saying the child needs to go somewhere else, whether it's South Africa or the UK or America. And I think that's the mentality of most parents now, which shouldn't be the case. Because I think that a couple of you mentioned that Malawi is that capability, but what is it that is making us not want to invest in here? So again, I would say, for example, the Alexes of this world, what is it that, what makes you not settle in Malawi and choose somewhere else? And these are important questions because at the end of the day, we have to say that we want the best for our children. So for me, I think leadership is very important. I know, Brenda, you talked about us also being responsible, but the accountants in here will also agree that we talk about a tone at the top when you talk about changing culture and changing mindsets. Our leaders are supposed to be exactly that. They're supposed to be leading by example. So yes, we all have all these important responsibilities in our various institutions, and we've got the qualified people like in the ministry, we've got lots and lots and lots of people who are capable, and we've got lots and lots of policies, but where we fall short is the implementation. And why do we focus on implementation? It's because the leaders don't buy into the vision that everyone else has. So it's very important, I think, for the leaders to really push the agenda that benefits the nation. So yes, we went from a dictatorship, then we went to a democracy that wasn't really a democracy, and then we ended up in a kleptocracy. So those who did Greek will know what kleptocracy is. But I think that's where we're wrong, because we don't love our country. If we have leaders who don't love the country, if we have leaders who put their interests before everyone else, then we've got a problem. So how do you build leaders? You build them in the homes. We can't really change the people that are there now, but we can change the people who are within our control. So yes, we worry about the Jaguars, the South Streamers, the bit of the Caribbean, but I think where we need to start is also in our homes. So what are we teaching our children on a day-to-day basis? We're talking about entrepreneurship. Are we teaching them that? Or are we just going to office and coming back and not exposing them to anything else? You'll see, like, for example, the Indians, even in our time, straight from school, while we're going to play fly and rounders and everything else, where are the Indian kids? They're sitting in the shop with their father and they're getting those skills. So I'll challenge you, like Kambani, take your kids to the farm, let them learn those skills. Because the kids learn by looking and observing what we do, rather than just telling them to study and get your degree. The biggest thing that I found in Malawi is that we've raised kids that just want to get a degree. We are getting them through a system rather than really teaching them the skills that they need to survive. So I'm lucky that, for example, I can take my child to a private school, but the things that they learn, they are mind-blowing. When I compare the things that my child knows to, for example, from post student to the government system, it's amazing the things that are doing. So for me, it's just to say leadership is important, but leadership is important also at every level.
Yeah.
So it's important in the home, it's important in our institution, and we need to lead by example, because that's the only way that we're going to learn. At the moment, the moral fabric of Malawi is completely rotten. We need to get it back. We need to change the culture, and that's not going to happen in 5 or 10 years. It's going to take a much, much longer time. So instead of focusing on who is there now, let's focus on building the leaders who can then take this forward in the future.
Wow, that's a very comprehensive win. Very, very, very good. I think JK wanted to add on that before we move much on. JK? I think you're on mute.
Am I clear now?
Yes, yeah. All good. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was awesome, Winifred. It covered a lot of stuff. But I wanted to come in from what Kambani had earlier said, the business environment. Have we created an environment where businesses in the country can strive? So firstly, yes, the new government has come in. It's giving people hope. It happens all the time when you have a new government. The hope is there. I think they're trying to work on the business environment, so that they're trying to talk about government, private sector partnership and all that. But as Kambani earlier said, that works for the big businesses that are already established. But now, someone who just wants to start his own small business, I think we need to do a lot. There has to be the legal frameworks to support that. Indigenous people should be supported. There has to be incentives for them, a deliberate policy to support them. And Kambani talked about the vocational training. What I wanted to say about the vocational training, in my trade union work, I was privileged at one point to go with the TVETA team and government team to Germany to learn how the TVETA system works. right now. I briefly in Germany, how it goes is it's like they have a
I think we seem to have some network challenges there.
So you have the academic line of going to school, right? So you do your up to standard 6, and then you get to standard 8.
JK, I think you're breaking up a bit. Can you still hear us okay? Try coming off and on again. Sometimes that helps. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah, Alex, you.
JK, can you hear us?
Streaming from
network challenges, but anyway, let's just picking up from Winnie again, and that a brilliant summary about the topic. I put it another way, that it's almost like we need someone to call people's bluff in a way, because like we said, if you go to government, you almost speak to every minister or people who are top up there. They know these things. But if someone could come with a proposal, for example, to say, I would like to make this change, or I would like to do this development, I would like to do this business, and I need A, B, C, D, E. You guys say that you want to help people do sustainable development or do whatever it is that is required to move the country forward. Help me do A, B, C, D, E, and whatever it is that you need to get things done. And then call people's bluff and see how you are going to be able to do that. What blocks are you going to face? Are you going to come up against the system in the way that everything is, there's corruption or things that you can't do, or the laws are things are not conducive to people the way that they want to do certain things. So maybe that is one of the challenges, I guess, to look at. Now, looking at probably, I think Sue, you touched upon this as well, the environment, and maybe Peter as well, if he can come in from a point of like the legal framework, especially on the entrepreneurial side, around maybe laws around staff employment or labor laws, and around that. What are the challenging things that you see, which are sort of blocks for people to pursue either entrepreneurial things that they would like to do from a legal point of view, either whether it's competition or anything? What are the key areas that you see as challenges currently in the country? Yeah.
Anything at all, getting something registered it's a bit too technical. Like, for example, you have a farm, you want, okay, just for you to get the TPIN number, just to get everything sorted out, you need someone, an accountant, who knows how to do that. A young person who has no clue, it doesn't guide you to make it a bit easier. I would think, how game comes in the country, they're given, I think, a year of If we did that to encourage entrepreneurs, okay, give them a tax window to start the business, that might possibly help us, okay? Like our loans is absolute. Okay, it doesn't encourage people to be homeowners. It doesn't encourage you to get a loan.
So I think we've lost Susan for a bit. We'll see if we can get her back. I think she's
because once you take that loan, you start servicing it. The law has placed, okay? They don't look at the amount of money you've serviced it. You don't service it, there is no system in place. You lose out whatever you pay, then anything else comes there, it's up to either the bank or whoever loaned the money, okay? Other countries have different rules that make sure that their economy shouldn't fail, all right? In that specific case, they have removed what is called the power of sale to the banks. It is setting up there. Kenya allows, you have to go through 8 different systems before you can be allowed by law to sell that property. Why are they doing that? It's because they want their economy to grow. They want whoever is loaning to have absolutely failed to recover their money, either put it under administration, either reorganize it, or find another system, either extend the loan period. So the person, why are they doing this? It's because they've sat down and looked at what we need to boost up our economy. We need entrepreneurs. We need cooperatives. We need people to become employers. The employer base to increase. So our rules, our laws need a lot to look into it. Okay, they normally favor one side. Sometimes some of them work, but sometimes they are not working. So we need to revisit all these things. What in the end do we want to achieve as an economy? Do we want whereby people have the capacity? Because people do have the capacity, but it doesn't make sense for people to try. Yes, everybody fails in business, but we need to encourage more entrepreneurs. That way our economy has to be boosted, because we know it has that capacity to boost. And that's what we need. We need our laws to look through other countries, as I'm saying that, look through and try and not let them be as rigid as they are. But I'll do kudos. Most of the rules now, like the judiciary, is doing quite a good job with most of there are a few that need, but most of them, I think, are getting there. We are trying our best. So we need to keep onto that path and go through the different things to make sure that entrepreneurs have the rules should protect them the way they're protecting investors. We should have that same mindset when we are looking at entrepreneurs that are Malawians and that are young, and most of all that are ladies. We even have, in other countries, we have children who are entrepreneurs. So I think we need to look through all that as well.
Yeah, that's a very, very helpful, Susan. Yeah, to understand that, because as entrepreneurs, they play quite a critical role in driving the economy. If you look at across areas of employing people, paying taxes, and all of that. So if you can put in measures, like you're saying, from a legal point of view, or even finance and lending and all that kind of thing, to make it more conducive for people to actually want to go into that field, that will be quite, helpful to actually drive up the numbers of people wanting to do that. Because from even an individual ability point of view, some people are born, you know, with their academic abilities so that they can actually go to school, do well, do research or academic stuff. But other people are just as gifted, even more so, on the entrepreneur side. They can do business, they can employ people, they can do stuff, and all these sides need to merge and come together. I think Winnie wanted to add something on the legal side, so go ahead, Winnie. Do you have something to add on that? Yeah, I think you're on mute.
Okay, sorry. I was saying that one of the other critical things that we need to work on is our immigration laws. Because I do find that there's a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurship, but this will be taken up by foreigners. And you also find that there's a lot of prime land and assets that would be beneficial to the local Malawian, but are being taken up by foreigners because our immigration laws are so weak. So we are not protecting our own. We need to really look at our laws and to encourage and support our own people to be successful. Simple things like even CEPs. You'll find that there's foreigners coming into the countries, even into formal employment. When you've got Malawians in the country who can do just the same quality, if not better work, but you still have people coming in. You have people in the agricultural sector who have no qualification at all. They're coming in and they're taking up all these big positions. So how can we progress like that? And I think that's really something very important that needs to be looked into, because now we're basically selling our country.
Yeah, that's a good point. But is that happening in a way that they are taking over and we as Malawians are not able, are losing out as a result, or we are not pushing ourselves to actually take those opportunities? As a result, they are being taken by other people. So in a way, we are not taking the initiative. Is it a bit of both, or if we go ahead and take those, they are not available because they've gone elsewhere, or we are not doing what we need to do? Because if we did, we take the initiative, we would still be able to get those opportunities. What's the feel?
So Alex, for me, I think it's really more financial than anything else. I think somebody already touched on the issue of, yes, we talk about entrepreneurship, but where do people get that capital from? Yeah. So now we are competing with people coming in with more money than us. And again, the issue of corruption comes in. They can bribe officials and they can get away with, for example, buying these big farms and buying prime property in town. Whereas your Malawian just as capable, but is not being supported by the government to be able to do these things.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. Very good point. Just want to bring in Peter quickly around from where you're working, the awareness of people of either their the opportunities or the things that the law affords them to do. Do you find that a lot of people are actually aware of the laws and what they can and cannot do? Or is there that big lack of awareness around as well of what is afforded to people? What's your experience in your field?
I would say the laws are there, but I think what is lacking most is the legal literacy. For instance, at our workplace, we have this mandate that we move around to assess businesses and to see whether they are following the laid down legal provisions. For instance, the act that we enforce normally says that a business person is supposed to put prices on the things that he is selling, so that everybody should know that this thing is going out at this price. But you go there, they say we don't know that it's against the law not to put a price. And even if we put a price, it means somebody will just see the price and leave us and go somewhere else to buy. So it's like it is working against us as well. So we tend to tell them, what the law says and what they're supposed to do, and they appreciate, and then later on they follow what is supposed to be done. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to educate business people who own businesses about the law and what they have to do, so that they should be on the right side of the law always. So people had to take this challenge that they have to tell business people what the law says, and they themselves also they have that duty to make sure that they should appreciate what the law says, and they have to do what the law says. And maybe just to add, Winnie talked about foreigners coming in and taking businesses. I have an example. During our assessments, we also noticed that refugees from, let's say, Rwanda and Burundi, sometimes they receive things at the refugee camp, and they make very good mandasi, very big ones. Those that are made by Malawians are very small. And people go for those huge mandasi, and these Malawian businesses go out of business. So I would agree that foreigners also, maybe because they have that financial capacity, they have that power to move maybe other businesses out of the market. I'd also hasten to add that we have two types of entrepreneurs, businesses in Malawi. Some which are formal, others informal. The formal ones are those people who go through the whole process. They register their business, they have TPINs from MRA, they pay tax every month, and we have these informal businesses that are out there, so they don't pay tax, they don't pay money to register, so they are the ones that are making more profits. So those people who want to follow the law are the ones who are going out of business. So I think this is another area that we have to look at, so that businesses should make profits while following the law as well. So there are areas that need to be looked at, so that businesses, these entrepreneurs should the environment in which they are doing business should be conducive, and should afford the equal opportunity to every person that intends to carry out business.
Wow. So
yes, thank you.
Yeah, so that's very, very good points there. I guess it's that empowerment of people and businesses, so that they get to compete almost at the same level playing field. Otherwise, the system doesn't work. It's almost what they say. The rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. But where those who don't have much, even the little that they have gets taken away and get given to those who already have a lot more. So I guess that's the role of government. It's almost to protect those people and the people who are in that less privileged position. So that's great stuff there. So I guess as we sort of look to conclude in a way, it's that task of all of these things are yes understood and documented, but we've moved through the years and a long time. People understand it and not doing it. What are the things that we should actually be doing or telling the leadership to do? For me, a number of things. The issue of corruption, I think I was having this discussion about how it's probably key to make examples of people. This issue of someone getting arrested for corruption and a few hours later they are out of it, takes the faith and the belief in the system out from people. So they just feel like nothing happens, and then they probably follow the same. So that's probably quite key as well. And the question of leadership, us as individuals, starting that from our own homes and families, teaching our kids how things should be. And then as they get instilled, the mindset becomes that. if this new generation of our kids gets that different mindset, maybe they get to do something in the future as well. Maybe there's a role for that as well. So as we look to conclude, think you guys are sitting in front of the administration, for example, across all the 7 different areas of life, whether it's what are they actually, like the social, physical, financial, spiritual, whatever. What would you like to see the administration do to move the country forward? So start with Kambani still around. No, Brenda, you take us forward. What would you like the administration to do? Reverse some of these trends.
I think, and this is a personal opinion, and it's not derived from any deep reading, but I think that we have, and I think everybody's touched on it, and there's a recurring thread along where we have the corporate way of doing things is the standard. And with all the best will in the world, corporate people and corporate types are trained by the very nature of being corporate types to be very limited in how they think. So this is not a disrespect to anybody in the corporate sector, but corporate, if you have a brand, just have a set of rules, you stick to them, you replicate them, and you grow. What we have, and what I observed when I was in Malawi, particularly this time last year, was, I'll give you an example. Our car broke down, and I had a great big panic because I was nowhere near a city. That where am I going? How am I going? I don't have the AA to call. So someone's going to come and winch my car and give me a courtesy car, and off I go. But the ability on the ground to very quickly find somebody, turn up, get it changed. It was the inflexibility is Malawi's superpower. I don't know if that makes sense. The lack of structure isn't necessarily a bad thing, I don't think. I think that we are very creative types. You know, we make things out of almost anything. We've got amazing products. And we are a poor country. We are not going to grow from within. You know, if I'm a poor household, I've only got so much money in my household. I can split it 100 different ways. That's still going to be the same amount of money. But we need to start thinking globally. Winnie touched on it. You know, technology allows us to all sit on this call in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world, at the same time, going out live. Malawi needs to harness that. We need to really be at the forefront. It makes me so mad. Malawi has the most expensive data in the world. That in itself is putting us back 50 years. Just having that barrier is putting, because that genius in Chitipa that you talked about, who doesn't necessarily have access to Kamuzu Academy, has got access to YouTube, has got access to courses from Harvard that are free of charge today. They don't need to say your papers. All you need is an email address. Email addresses are free. Connectivity and tech is the one thing, if anybody in government is going to make a big difference, that's the one thing you're going to pour all your money in. Get people coding, get everybody out with a Pi. A Pi computer costs $13. Get them out, let people just leave, don't give them rules, just say here's a Pi tablet, go and do what you like. And you'll be amazed at just the creativity that we have, that inflexibility. I'm sorry to all my corporate friends, all my learned friends, we are not going to be part of the solution. We're going to be the ones that hold it together while all these other people come in, and we have to be open to that. We have to be open. We can't say, yeah, we can't have that mentality. And I promise you, if we get the connectivity, if the government said to everybody, you get 5 gig of data free a month, regardless, no questions asked. You register your phone number. When I was in Malawi, I had to get my passport, I had to get my address to register for a phone number. You have one of those, we know you're a citizen, no questions asked. 5 gig a month. That kid in Chitipa can go on YouTube and learn to code independent of a teacher who has no resources. They can challenge somebody, say, actually, this thing's broken. Let me see how it works. We have a fabulous story that goes around the world every so often about the boy who harnessed the wind. We could multiply that 1,000,000 times over. And when we start to export and get funds from outside because of our genius, that's when as a country start to grow. We're not going to grow from within. We need to export our denser mugs. We need to export our coffees. We need all of those things to happen, but it won't happen while there's barrier to access to knowledge, while there's barriers to the internet. The whole world's moved to the internet. COVID-20 for coronavirus has shifted the whole world 20 years. And we could be there now, not in 20 years, languishing. That's my take on it. As you can tell, I work in tech. I'm very passionate about it. I see the difference it makes. And yeah, I'm going to stop now. Otherwise, I'll carry on talking.
That's a very, very great, actually, contribution on that. Because, you know, harnessing technology, like you're saying, will make things move 1,000,000 years ahead of where we are now. I mean, if you look at where people have come from, and these are from a leverage point of view, this is the time where you can get a lot done in less time and get a lot
exactly
less money as well. And like you rightly pointed out, you can move ahead, whereby before we had disadvantages of maybe money in some senses to move quite a lot. But there is a sector here in IT where you can literally, like you're saying, today, tomorrow, within a short space of time, be like all these other developing countries just by special because almost anything from an education point of view, science, technology, IT, you can do and search and find from online. If you want to understand how like electricity or whatever works, or how to harness the sun, you can go online and there'll be tutorials and things for free that can teach you those things, that you can become experts in any particular field, you know. So that is really key. So I wanted to check whether the guys on the panel know about this. What is the stumbling block for people or internet business and companies in Malawi? Is it that difficult? If I wanted tomorrow to bring my own company to start an internet business and provide it for cheap, I'm thinking I would not be able to do that. Is that right in my thinking? There's quite a few stumbling blocks. Maybe some other companies have tried, because this is like a cash cow for, I don't know whether the politicians or a lot of people in business are in this, but it's a business that's making a lot of money. I mean, almost every person has got a smartphone. Everyone has got to make a call, has got to do WhatsApp, and has got to do that. And people will pay for a WhatsApp bundle and not eat that evening. Yeah. To that extent, I'm sure. So it's quite a massive cash cow. So for those people who know and understand in the system, they'll probably do as much as they can to restrict competition that will drive down profits and things, because this thing can go in that way. Is my belief correct that the current environment and laws or whatever are quite restrictive in terms of, if I want tomorrow to bring in companies to provide internet for really cheap, like 1 kwacha or something for 20 gig, is my thinking correct? KM, are you aware of those rules and laws? Or Peter, again, come after KM.
In fact, I was just typing here that that question is tailor-made for Peter.
Yeah, okay, yes. From is it CFTA or something? Yeah. So, Mota.
CFTA.
What's the view on that?
Okay, I think I would say that no.
Go ahead.
Okay, okay. I would say that no. The law is clear. That there is need for companies to be in abundance so that there should be competition. So the law is clear. Companies can come as many companies would come and carry out internet business. So the law is very clear. Nobody is supposed to be prevented from doing that, because by doing that it would be against the competition law. So people are encouraged to come and establish their companies in Malawi. But in practice, maybe it's difficult for the companies to get established, but the law is very clear. But in practice, there are political issues and things like those, but the law is clear. Every person has got that right to come and establish a company to compete. So we believe that if there are so many companies, there will be competition. When there's a competition, there will be better services given to the citizenry. But there are other factors maybe that prevent people from establishing those companies. But the law is very clear. Yes.
Yeah, because I mean, for the big guns who benefit a lot from these companies, it's quite tricky for them to see them accepting that either their payouts or the dividends or whatever they get is going to be reduced because someone else is flooding the market and prices are going down, the margins are becoming lower. That's what I see. But otherwise, I mean, I always wonder, I mean, here in the UK, there's so many companies, you can get internet, there's a lot of competition and things. And I wonder why it's not possible for that to be brought, to Africa and Malawi and things. And it's still very expensive for broadband or things for people to have. Why is that? I always wonder that because it's not something that companies haven't thought about. They see Africa as a big market. A lot of people are looking for data. They want to connect and all of that. And people are doing that, but they are paying the odds for it. So someone somewhere is making a lot of money, So if the laws are there, why is it not happening?
Maybe our accountants can, and the politicians maybe.
The accountants, or Winnie, are you guys not providing the funding for these companies? Yeah, because if you can provide a conducive environment, I'll come tomorrow with a few companies, me and Brenda, who start providing broadband for one.
We'll call it BrendaComs. BrendaComs bundles is what you want.
We bring internet for 1 kwacha for 20 gig or something. Yeah, but
let me add a comment to this. I'm always really curious as to how the companies, telecoms companies, I pick on MTN and Airtel, they're the two. I know previously we've had some, and I've actually worked with those old companies in a different life, or sort of related to Vodacom and so on and so forth. So in the UK, the government auctions off bandwidth. So when new technology is coming off, whether it's, let's use 4G as an example, because that's the one that's maturing and coming to the end. When 4G technology was maturing and getting to the point that it was ready for use to go out into the market, so you needed the handsets to be ready, you needed the networks to be ready, and the infrastructure to be ready as well. The government auctioned off the bandwidth, and there's four main players: Vodafone, O2, and 3 Network. So they all bid on this, but what they do is they bid for exclusivity for a period of 6 months. The government doesn't allow them to have more than 6 months. So for 6 months, they have a monopoly on that new technology, right? So it always coincides with the best iPhone, latest iPhone coming out. It's going to be 4G capable, and the only time you can get the super fast broadband is with one company. In this case, it was EE. I don't know if Alex remembers it very well. It was 4G. They had all the adverts. They had all the biggest names, and the marketing was incredible. And all everybody did for 6 months was buy EE 4G SIMs. In the meantime, the other players had to wait. At the end of that 6 months, the marketplace was open. I'm always really curious to understand how that kind of setup is set up in Malawi, because at the end of 6 months, the other players come in and undercut. They can do it cheaper. They've not had to invest in overbidding for that bandwidth that they bid for in the first place. So I think it's once we start to understand how these technologies work, it's all a bit mumbo jumbo. Well, no, actually it's not. They've got to get the frequencies. They've got to have them signed off by somebody. And that should be general information. That should be information somebody like me can pick up and learn, so that it's not too mysterious, it's not mythical. So my take on it is that it's all done under hush-hush. Somebody touched on it. I'm not saying anybody changed money in this particular setups, but the system is open to abuse. It's open to people to turn a blind eye. And that once they're set up, that 6 month period isn't necessarily 6 months. It's now 12 months or 5 years. Now, if you stifle competition within the law, because the lawmakers have not understood what the implications are, or they've not been challenged, or they've not been given the opportunity to say, right, guys, we're going to do this. We want a consultation. What do you think? And remember that guy in Chitipa? He's been studying, he's been looking in, and he's going to go in and he's going to submit his consultation. And the likes of Peter, the likes of Winnie and Kambani, they sit on these panels doing that consultation and going, actually, yeah, 5 years sounds great, but it's short-sighted, because in 5 years' time, nobody else would have had a time to enter the marketplace, to challenge the pricing structure, to go in and white label the services. Alex, you said there's lots of providers in this country. There's tier 1, which is the big 4. They own the infrastructure. Then you've got tier 2, who sell those services. Then I can go off and create Brendacoms and sell you guys mobiles. I don't own a network. I don't own a handset. I don't own anything. But because the market is open, I can bulk buy data from Alex at Vodafone, and I can bulk buy minutes of international minutes. I can bulk buy, and then I can package them in my own bundles. So I might say to you guys, come and buy Brenda bundles. They last a lot longer because I've bought them in bulk. You know, people, we need to break it down so it's not too mysterious. It's not too, everything's a bit, yeah, they're new guys. How many times you guys hear, and even a bundle yang, I topped up 10 gig yesterday and it's gone. Nobody's out to steal your 10 gig. It's how the systems work, but it's too mysterious. People don't understand that, it's all automated. There's machines and great big computers in the back working. Nobody sat there going, right, minus 5 gig of data. It's not Mpunga. It's not rice. It's not water, It's advanced, but it's not ones that we can't get our heads around. And the systems are there for us to learn from how other countries do it. We don't need to do it in a vacuum. Yeah. So on the competition side, you guys need to go and start asking people loads of questions. Say to them, here's our system, pick holes in it. Go and say to people, we think we've got a good system. Can you go and pick holes in it? Open it up, get it outside of corporate land, get it outside of our learned friends. And we all know there's geniuses out there. Otherwise, you just have people like me that just talk and talk and talk.
I think Winnie wanted to say something. Winnie, are you still around? Over to you. You see?
No, actually, I didn't want to say something, but I think what Linda has said just takes us back to the importance of education and exposure and being able to understand so that we're able to compete. Because everything that she said there was basically Greek to me. I was like, what is she talking about? So it's getting that basic understanding, having the population to understand things like this is critical. We know that education is a great equalizer. If we don't have that, we're not going to progress.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So from an entrepreneurial point of view, what are the hot areas at the moment in Malawi where people are making it good and big? Yeah, KM. Where are the sectors or the areas to go? Is it I don't know, real estate or selling, equipment or services or what is it, or transport, or is it across the board, or what are people doing these days?
I think on that. Okay, before I get to that, I just wanted to comment on the connectivity, the data issues that we're discussing. Yeah. I just, out of experience from talking to these guys, because there was a lot of discussion around the cost of data in Malawi and the like. But what the guys from the industry, tell us really to say, okay, why is it? When we talk to them to say why are you charging us so much just for internet, for example? We especially for some of us at the office, we're using, for example, Skyband. So it's they always talk about the high costs for fiber connectivity. So I think it really talks about the infrastructure that we currently have on that side. So for somebody to get connected, the undersea cables or whatever, that come through to us to get us connected to the internet, there's quite a high cost to that. It's not every Jim and Jack who can get into the business and say I'll start an internet company. So that could be one of the barriers. I think that the cost, the investment into the fiber networks or just access to the existing networks, I think that could be one of the areas where there may be a barrier. Just to answer your question, why as you're thinking about bringing the internet company between yourself, Alex, and Brenda, those could be the issues that you need to look at. They tell us, the service providers, that it's quite expensive. So so I would mention that, not really having the numbers to back it up. I'm not really an expert in that area, but that's something that they always mention, and it seems to to make sense to them that when they build it into their pricing, they have to make sure that they're able to to get a return on whatever they have invested into that system. So I think coming back to what we are talking about in terms of entrepreneurship, you say what sort of areas? I think what I can say initially is to say that I think what we have seen in the past few years, most of the entrepreneurs that we are talking about who have really grown very quickly, unfortunately, have been maybe entrepreneurs who are politically connected. So the hottest business that has been in the past few years, people that have really been doing, is what we have called tenderpreneur. So a tenderpreneur is really somebody who is able to win government tenders. So they're able to win government tenders not because they have got good quality products or good quality service or whatever capacity, but what they have really is the political connectivity. So I think that's an area where you find that so there may be entrepreneurs who are trying to do quite well. I think I would be wrong to suggest that everyone is in that category, but there are people who are really doing straightforward business that they have really earned because of their expertise and the like. But I think there's a sort of frustration from entrepreneurs because they are quickly overtaken by these people who are who tend to be given business on the basis of being politically connected. But in general, I think looking at maybe areas, in my view, I think the areas where there's a lot of potential. I think still on the agriculture side, there's a lot of potential that we can tap into because where we are currently operating, it's at a level where there's a lot of room for commercialization, industrialization. So there's quite a lot of potential, for growth in that sector. And I think we're also looking at, even when we're talking about energy, there are big opportunities in energy as well. Looking at the renewable sources of energy, looking at the solar power solutions. Because I wanted to add also, I think coming to the solar sector, I think that's an area where we are also seeing some growth, and largely driven by the fact that there's still a lot of people in the country who are not connected to the grid. And yes, and I think to the point that my colleagues had mentioned, Brenda talked about the issue of connectivity. There's the challenge that also comes in with the connectivity. Is that some of the areas where you would want people to access, such type of services or, education materials, for example, power supply is also a big challenge. So I've got, a direct experience. I helped to manage a certain school where we were trying to reach out to, because of this COVID situation, we're trying to reach out to parents and students to say, okay, how can we, still deliver, materials? The teachers, how can they still continue to teach their students, but using an online platform? So the first challenge was we found that data is not really a priority for most of the parents. Priority not because they just don't want to put education at the level where it should be, but it's they're now talking about just survival. I think they want to prioritize buying maize. They're talking about the basic requirements that as a family need, even to just get a computer or a laptop for a student. It's not as easy as it may seem. So even the government, I think they tried to come up with this online delivery of education, I think for some of the secondary school students. I don't think it worked. They talked about it. There was TNM who partnered them, but we have not seen the results to say that it has worked. So those could be some of the challenges that we, as a country, are currently facing. So I think, to answer your question, I would think that there's still massive opportunity in the energy sector. There's a lot of opportunities for whether it's small scale or big scale provision of power to the country. There's still, we are very at the moment, I think when we're talking about industrialization, there's still a limit as to how much ESCOM, for example, and AGENCO can provide power to to help industry and even for households. So there's an element there where maybe entrepreneurs can come in to look at the other sources of supply, and obviously on the agriculture sector as well. I think maybe I'm biased being a farmer myself, but I think we're looking at using innovations that we've talked about. So even what we're discussing on the connectivity side, there'll be opportunities where we can improve the systems that we are currently using. I know for a young, two young guys who implemented or who actually designed and implemented a system, an irrigation system, which can, actually be operated via phone. So they can run, they can, open and close the irrigation system just using a phone. So those would be, I think, the innovations that we should be, encouraging the young guys to look at.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's very interesting. So almost looking at it from encouraging creativity from people to bring out their ideas of what they can do, but also within like a venture capital infrastructure, whereby for those people who can bring maybe funding and encourage those guys to come up with their ideas and then support and fund them. So, but again, the political and economic and legal and the tax framework has to be conducive to those kind of things, because these are the things for me. Personally, I'm looking into to see what are the areas that for us maybe in the diaspora we can make a difference in. But with that, I guess comes in the collaboration to make sure that if and when we come out there, we come with our proposals and with whatever it is, you guys can be there to collaborate and support and show us where the loopholes are and how to plug them, but still within that grand vision of doing something that we can actually move the country forward on. So, me personally, I've got ambitious plans that I'm putting together that I want to drive through the country, which involve a lot of collaboration with a lot of people, and they include building entire townships from scratch, with everything. If you look at building a township, that involves having schools there, having transport, shopping centers, residential provision, but at a grand scale, to an extent that you are incorporating, like we are saying, technologies and recycling, so that they can actually become self-sustainable. So that will involve a lot of planning and collaboration. But within the understanding that there are people who understand these things, they are encouraging innovation and encouraging things. That's the extent whereby when we come and bring these ideas, we should make it conducive. We'll provide the support where there's, as I said, loopholes in doing this. We'll try and close them together. But the patience and the leadership and everything else that we can carry and we can bring it forward. But we'll be looking for you guys there to make it that conducive. Then you get that contribution from the diaspora or people who are outside, who the encouragement is for, come back and do stuff here and help your country and all of that. But where people get stuck, is where they come and do that and they see themselves, their lifestyle or whatever, go down because they can't move things forward. Like we've discussed with the education, the system has collapsed over years. So no one wants to see their progression, go down over years. Everyone is looking to improve. But the way you can improve is when you have that collaboration and that support, then you can see you're moving forward. Otherwise, people just stay here. Brenda, that's why he just stays in Nottingham. She's not coming back to Malawi, the way she was complaining, all the things she faced when she was in Malawi. And was it the conclusion that no more, you're not going back, Brenda? What was the conclusion? But this is your time to go back and get all this change.
I wanted to come back to Malawi. I've always wanted to come back. The issues have been, and this is a very political thing, is that Malawi is one of a handful of countries that would not allow or permit me to have dual citizenship. And the strength of feeling in the general population that because you have taken up citizenship of another country for whatever reason, it could be love, it could be opportunities that came up, it could be whatever. It's my right as a human to take up citizenship elsewhere. And the pure feeling that, I am less than Malawian purely because I'm also a citizen of another country, and the barriers that were put up against that, it's really off-putting. Malawi is happy to take money from South Africans who have not, they don't care about Malawi. They don't even care to treat Malawians well. I mean, how many times have you gone to the resort that's owned by a South African? You're treated like trash. But yeah, I've always wanted to come back. If the time is right, the opportunity is there, I'll come back to Malawi, and make some noise. And then if people start chasing me with sticks and stones, I'll run back. But it's not been very conducive for a lot of very brilliant people to come back. We have lost a big chunk of, not me, I'm not saying I'm brilliant. I know a lot of very, very brilliant engineers, software people that are doing amazing things in their fields in foreign lands. That, on paper, Winnie said, people have those discussions all the time with their families. Once you have children, what are we going to do? Where's their future going to lie? What's the best thing we can do for their future? Where are we going to get the most, give them the best for their potential? And I'm sorry, I had to make that decision to say that staying in the UK is the best thing for me and my family at this moment in time. However, if the opportunities were actually, you could mitigate some of that by going home and doing X, Y, and Z, and it was easy enough because I'm a citizen of both and not a foreigner, then that would come 2-3 years, contribute what I can, and then come back. But it's all or nothing. The system has been, you're either here with us suffering and going through what we're going through, or you're not. And the ability to see beyond Mwela was at beta. It was really astounding. It was really, present company accepted, of course, but you give people a choice to make, and they will make that choice. And unfortunately, Malawi doesn't always win.
Yeah, cool. I think the challenge that I have taken up is to really embrace this technology thing, because like we have been talking here now, it's just as well, maybe not as good, but we are collaborating. We are here, you guys are in Malawi, we are collaborating. We can make decisions here. We can make our plans and visions and things that we want to build. And we can be either on a weekly or monthly basis, be talking to each other, briefing each other, and getting things done on the ground and collaborating at this scale using technology. Yeah. So I'm gonna be challenging you guys about this, because we can do a lot of stuff. So I've got a grand ideas that I'm working on, and you guys will get to see them at the right times, and hopefully you get on board. But this is our time. Like we say, we are in the 40s now, and the leadership position that we talk about should be taken up by ourselves. Yeah. So I see Brenda is gonna become Minister of Technology in Malawi or something like that. So well and good. So we'll be looking forward to that. But I think we should really embrace this technology and moving the country forward and doing something about it. So if there's going to be someone who's gonna take up a bit of role to collaborate and bring everyone in and look at help, I make sure Brenda gets on board, and myself will try and do something, even if it's something that we have a grand vision of and we are not going to complete in our generation. But at least we start something, a movement or something that effects a bit of change. Otherwise, no one else is going to do it, And we say now we are looking at leadership, people who are in leadership now. We are in our 40s or getting into our 40s now. When is it that we are going to be the leaders, You guys are moving up to be the CEOs and the people leading the organization. So now is the time. There was this guy, was it Chamisa or whatever in Zim, he's about 40. He was going to become, he didn't win, he was going to become president. Actually, how old is Chilima actually? How old is Chilima? Is he? He's not that old, is he? Anyone? How old is Chilima? KM, do you know? Peter?
I think
he should be about 40.
45.
Yeah, so he's in there and thereabouts, now our sort of ages. So, I mean, if he's in leadership, being VP, I mean, we should be driving these either, big developments or big projects or big something. We should be taking up those initiatives and initiatives and projects. So for one, I want to take up that kind of projects with big visions, with not something that is for a year or 2 years or something, but something that is, from the face of it looks grand or massive. Because if you're gonna achieve something, I was reading in one of my studies somewhere where it says that, if you want to achieve something like that as an individual, you have to have a cause that is beyond you. So if I want to achieve something for me, I look at the cause, which is my family. If I want to achieve a cause beyond my family, I look at my community, a cause which is in my community. If I want to achieve something beyond my community, I'm looking at my city, for example. Yeah. My city. If I'm looking for beyond my city, I look at the state or the district. Beyond that, I'm looking at a nation. Beyond the nation is the globe, and beyond that is the astronomical. So you're getting into the realms of the great thinkers of the Aristotle or Plato, all of that. So you're outside looking in, not the other way around. You're inside looking out. So I'm standing out there in my astronomical vision. I'm looking at what is happening. And I can strip, the places and the visions and global, because you understand and know that, all of us, we have almost what do we call a vision beyond ourselves. Yeah. So an immortal, is it mortal being in a way, so that we want to achieve things or legacies which they are not just for the now, just for the us, but they are our immortal expressions in a way. So when all this is done, people will say, "Oh, this is a Mchiela Institute of Development. This is a Peter Mota Stadium, and this is a Brenda Malinki Institute of Neurological Studies or something like that, and the Winnie Institute of Brenda Institute of Technology or something. So those kind of things, and those structures will stay in 500 or whatever years, and the name will carry on. In the same way, we still talk about Plato and Aristotle. I mean, how many years did those guys live? Years and years ago. So we need to start thinking in those visions. So, and it starts with now and myself and all of you, and getting that into space. So yeah, it's been quite an interesting discussion. I think we've gone on for quite a while now. I think probably some of us need our beauty sleep now. It's been too long. We are getting that old. So we should go and have it's beyond the tea. What times do we still eat this the tea and the batatas? I remember our time we used to have maungu and all that stuff with chimanga, eaten, pig and all that. Do people still do that now, like in the villages? Are some of these traditions still kept, like those kind of things? Yeah. Are they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah,
we do. We do.
Even Toba,
but we do.
People still do.
Yes.
Toba. That, yeah?
Yes, we do. We do.
Yeah. That's good.
Yes.
Maungu and chimanga chopika and all that. I
yes.
Traditions when you go to the village.
And chinanga chopika then you kutenga pera ndukumakuwa ndukumaja.
That's awesome.
But I think that's one of the things that we need to actually change. When you talk about food, we spend so much time cooking. Like literally, we believe in spending an hour in the morning cooking, an hour in the afternoon cooking, or 2 hours. Then at tea time, we're cooking again. What time do we have to be productive? So this is one of the things that I always say as well, that as Malawians, we need to cut out all this and focus on being more productive.
Yeah.
I agree with Winnie. We don't need to cook nsima freshly every day. We don't need nsima more morning, noon, and night. Get the food on the go. Working lunch should be a thing. Who's saying no?
We have talked about leadership here. So even our leaders have said it is katatu. So we can't do anything about that.
He didn't say cook 3 times. He said eat 3 times. Eat 3 times.
Yes.
Not cook 3 times. Winnie is saying we shouldn't be cooking 3 times a day. That's what Winnie is saying. We must be more efficient with our time.
You can't keep it. So it has to be cooked in the afternoon and cooked again in the evening.
I have seen microwaves in Malawi. I've seen them. I adopt new technology.
Well, I guess it doesn't taste the same. Mukungo eat and taste. I guess
it does.
You see the main Brenda?
No, sacrifices must be made. If we are going to progress, we must sacrifice and eat ngute for the good of our nation. That's what we must do. If we can liberate 3 hours a day for productivity, to 15 hours a week, that's practically half a working week.
If I may ask you, when was the last time that you cooked in Sim? She's just talking about cooking, but she doesn't do the cooking at home.
Ask me.
I cook. What do you mean I don't cook? I'm a career mom.
No, Winnie is efficient. She plans her week. She cooks one time. Everybody fends for themselves.
Put in the freezer. Put in the freezer. That's it, isn't it?
But I wonder, in the spirit of embracing all these technologies, isn't it possible to invent some contraption that cooks in Sima? You just press a button and 5 minutes later, you haven't seen one.
I think somebody invented it, similar to a rice cooker, but everybody said, "Oh, Sima Moses," so that flows. We must.
It's a psychological.
The thing is, we must understand every meal cannot be a fine dining experience. We eat for sustenance. Yeah. So the one time that you sit down per weekend with your families, that's when you can really enjoy your 3-hour lunch and you go. But during the week, I say, 5 I had to cook for hours and hours. The weekend, lunchtime. I can't believe my mom used to take 2-hour lunches to go. They should finish from work in Blantyre, go to Limbi, collect me and my sister from school. We drive to Chileka. She'll sit down, eat lunch, and then go back to work. Hey, the amount of times I've had to grab a subway on the go. Jeez, a different world.
But then, Brendan, you're probably tapping into some signatures or traditions which make up nations, probably, because there will be things which are like a signature of a particular nation, and that's what they are known for. If anything else fails, they can't be a developed nation in the sense of the internet or the computers or the what. But at least they get to have an awesome meal. You know, that is the signature.
But it's killing us. It's holding us back. We must not hold on to traditions that are counterproductive to our visions of greatness. And that's the best thing I can say. If a tradition is there, and it's stopping you as a human or us as a people progressing, getting to the next phase, allowing us to have more for everybody else, it's a rubbish tradition. Bin it. It's worthless.
Yeah, but then in the something we are talking about, being able to see the fruits of your labor. So if you're gonna give up those traditions or whatever, you're expecting to see that in 5 years or 2 years' time, you're gonna see the benefits of that which you gave up. But in this instance, those benefits are probably gonna materialize, beyond our lifetime and in generations to come. So people, then that's where it ends. But
at which point do we become adaptable? If we can't become adaptable at the small things, how do we become adaptable at the big things? If we can't get past the idea of eating is sustenance, I can have a good meal in the morning, I can have a good meal in the evening. I don't need a 2-hour lunch in the middle, because that's when everybody should be working. If we can't adapt to the small things, how are we going to adapt to the big things?
Yeah. That's true, but I guess maybe sell them the vision, sell them what is it that they are working for, and when are they gonna realize or get the benefit? Then people will buy into that. So otherwise, what are you selling? If in 2 years' time or 3 years' time, nothing is gonna change, then people they don't see why they should stop having a 2-hour lunch. Yeah.
Okay, Alex, the reason I decided to stop doing the lunch, so at my house we don't do a full steamer lunch, we do snacks. Because I also look at my electricity bill and I said, this is ridiculous. Because in the morning I'm using energy. At lunch I'm using 2 hours, my stove is on. In the evening, another 2 hours. It doesn't make financial sense. And then if you look at the village, it also goes, if you look at the village, if they're using firewood morning, afternoon, night, where are they getting the firewood? They're cutting down trees, which is deforestation, which is then linked into a whole other different conversation. So it's not just about the meal, but it's also about the issues that surround the meal.
Yeah.
So we feel like, okay, we're having the benefits, but then we're losing out on so much more because of decisions like that.
But yeah, I think you're right, Win. But then these are the spaces where we need now to bring our creativity. How can we solve these things? How can we become more efficient? How can we develop new products, new services, or new ways of doing this? Like, for example, in your example, maybe we can bring solar or something so that you're not dependent on that electricity. You can have it for cheap, and it gets you to do all the things that you need to do. I mean, that's one example. What else can we do? There's they say man is at the greatest creativity when faced with challenge. Yeah. So these are the challenges we are facing. So we get our creative cap thinking on to say, how can we develop and do things differently, more efficiently, in a new way, and so on and so forth. So for me, my cap is always on like that. I'm just challenging things, and especially when people demonstrate that understanding and they are saying, yes, we can do this, we can do that. Then to call them up on that, call their bluff and say, okay, I've developed this. You say you can help A, B, C, D. Okay, what can you do? So that's all the other ways. But yeah, there's some great traditions in Malawi, which I guess you have to balance losing some of your cultural identities and traditions in the scheme of developing and technology. Where do you strike the balance? Because you want to end up the country being like a Western country like Europe, or you keep some things but get rid of others, and so on and so forth. So that's a delicate balance. But slowly by slowly, I think people are getting educated, understanding a different mentality. I think the next stage is to translate that mentality into practical steps of doing things on new projects and stuff. Otherwise, it just sits as a mentality and it doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. So, yeah. So it's been an awesome nearly 3 hours and talking about all things Malawi and tradition and things. So it's really been great. So thank you so much, guys, for joining into the discussions. I think we should almost have these touch points aside to the WhatsApp group, but actually get to see each other. Internet challenges on. I guess is there such thing as unlimited internet? Is there that provision in Malawi? Maybe it's expensive, but is it available at all, like you have here?
I'm looking at
no. There isn't. There isn't, and it frustrates me because my daughter has a phone and she gets 120 gig a month to use for whatever she wants. I think the most she's ever used is 18 gig in 1 month, and even then I was really shocked. And what I spend on that is £18, which is 18,000
Malawi kwacha.
Malawi kwacha, give or take. And I know that there's a big disparity, but for Malawi to be the most expensive in the world, the most expensive in the world, we're the poorest, and our barrier to access to knowledge is so high because the technology is cheap now. Handsets are available. The entry into that technology is cheap. It's not like my computer were extremely expensive. Not everybody had computers. With mobile technology, mobile phones, tablets, things that can connect out to the internet. The whole world's moving to the next phase now at the Internet of Things. I'm working on a project that's working on data collected, because there's so much data being collected. There's a whole new field for data management and looking at data and data science. That's all coming into its own. And we are limited because it's so expensive. If we talk about investments, I think I feel like, or I get the impression that when we use the word investment in Malawi, almost as if there's no return. An investment gets you a return. Where it's not just education isn't just pouring money into a black hole. It gets you a return. If we put investment in technology, if we put, I'm always shocked that the key critical infrastructure for communication within the country is outsourced to a private company. If that boss dies, somebody comes in, doesn't like the smell or the look of the country, and he pulls the plug. Who does, you get to a point where the network is saturated because they will start to limit their network to do what they like. The government needs to be actively investing in that infrastructure, more so than a road. I would argue that having broadband and internet connectivity up and down the country is more important than getting the M1 retirement. I would argue that having access for every citizen to knowledge, because Peter, you talk about let's look at real life problem. You talked about people selling, they don't understand I must display a price on my goods. That's the law. And it's only when you go out. If you have a handset, the dissemination of that information is quick. And we know Malawi takes up technology quick. How my Airtel money was picked up so quickly. My sister, my grandma in the village, they know Airtel money. So we're not slow as a country. We have too many barriers, and we have a very, I don't know if any of you guys have driven from Mangochi to Dedza using the road that goes up and down the mountains. You can see Mbali Akukumba. Yeah, Akukumba. That's being done by hand. What is going on? You've got, Alex will back me up on this. They are doing a smart motorway here on the M1. That's the biggest trunk road. It goes from the south to the north. At no point do they close it off to traffic. At no point do they close it off to traffic, ever. Traffic still flows all day, all night. It still flows. It's not that we can't plan, because we have the geniuses. They've all been abroad. They've all studied. It's just that when it comes to it, to really pushing that vision forward, it's like, get some diggers out. We've all taken these big bank loans from India. Get some diggers out, give them 3 weeks, dig up that road, lay the fiber and put it down. Because the longer it takes, I don't understand why there's lacking in that final push. Like, one is like, it wasn't the boss's idea, so I'm going to sit on it. Because if I go to Bwana Alex and say, Bwana Alex, she wants to be a boss. And, he forgets, we have a vision to deliver something. And we're accountable to somebody else. And that frustrates me. From a tech point of view, that really, really frustrates me. You guys with young kids that are having to learn online and they're talking to you about iPhones, they talk the language that you guys don't understand. If you take your kids, Alex, my kids, and Kambani and Peter's kids, put them, they will talk about stuff that we don't know. So even us, we're old news. But what do we do? Sorry, my guy, data is too expensive. Go and read Dim Van Sala. Dim Van Sala has a place, but in 2020 and beyond, you've got to know you've got to know what's happening on TikTok. You've got to know that's the way the world is going. TikTok will be out of fashion in a short minute. It will be something else. That will be out. By the time I said, not TikTok. There was Vine. We're being left behind unnecessarily. It's not like back in the day when we didn't have access to, when the world wasn't so global. I get really frustrated, really, really frustrated. But mostly it's that the human resource is there. Hands down. Hands down, maina ina West Africa sindichula for anthu akwathu kuno muzikondi komweko akwesa abanga phokoso koma zero not like anthu Malawi, anthu Malawi, they're very, very bright, and we have the added advantage. We never go to war with anybody. We've never been to war. We have no desire for war. None. And how do we languish with South Sudan, which from its very inception was war, has remained in war? How are we comparable to that? We must do some serious soul searching. I know the Majenses aren't CMED, but the attitudes are that we refuse to budge on anything. And nothing. We refuse to budge. What I say to everybody, I challenge them, budge and see. If it's bad, you can always go back, but you might surprise yourself. Alex sent me a message. I can't remember exactly, but I have a version of it that I needed to get out of my comfort zone into the growth zone. Yeah. And he said, and that's what I'm talking about. We are very comfortable with where we are as a nation. We're very comfortable in our poverty. We're very comfortable in our mediocre services. We're very comfortable in our really poor mortality rate on the roads. You know, we're very comfortable, Bangos. We're very comfortable to children going to school, standard 1 to Form 4, and coming out with nothing. We're very comfortable with our children going to university, spending 4 years, and half the time they're not in class, not learning. We're very comfortable with all these geniuses being denied a future because we're comfortable. We're not pushing ourselves to go out of that discomfort zone. Actually, let me see what it's like not to eat a big lunch. You know, if I push my team to say, right, I want you here by 7 o'clock, and we're going to power through every day, and we finish early on Thursday, you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. Let's see what those results are. Can you imagine going, Alex, how long have you ever queued in a bank in the UK?
Yeah.
You hardly queue in the bank. The amount of money banks spend to stop people queuing, you'll be amazed. In fact, now they've got it to a point where they don't even want you in the bank because that's wasting money. They want you. I've started a business. My bank account is on a phone, not even on a PC, on a phone. The barriers to entry are too high. They're too artificial. We're too afraid of, and I'm talking from a tech point of view. As I don't understand. From a tech point of view, we've left it to the tech heads. We've left it to these people because it's all a bit, we treat it like a true science. So we're not ready to understand, you know, and there's a certain aspect of it that we'll never understand truly. We're afraid of asking those questions. Tell me, TNM, how is it? What you are saying it's expensive? Yeah, but why is it expensive? Tell me, why is it expensive? Okay, how does it work? Explain it to me in layman's terms. Don't give me the technical stuff. Explain it to me in layman's terms. How you get data from my phone out to the internet. Don't let them get away with this whole, you know, it's we have to do. Yeah, they're doing that because they're protecting their interests. They don't care about you. And you know, COVID happened and the world went into lockdown. All your schools' kids closed down. And that was a big headache. I remember you guys stressing out. Fees we still have to pay. And then on top of that, we have to pay the most expensive data in the world. You know, whilst I'm stressing, my kids are going to take a knockback. They've missed 6 months of school, but they've had access to internet. What does this 6 months to a year of lockdown, what's the impact on this generation, these kids now? If you multiply that figure in 5 years' time, is this difference even bigger? Is the disparity even bigger because of it? It doesn't need to be. The government can do these things. There's always money. There's always money. The government is not ending in 5 years' time. It's there forever. Unless if the world's ending, nobody knows what date that is. They can print money to be paid off in 100 years. But again, that's just my take. I think I'm very, very passionate about this. When, I don't know if you can tell, we had the First Lady came to London a few years ago. And there's going to be a ladies at lunch and and she came with a prepared speech. And she had a beautification for girls or something, Beautify Malawi or something. I can't remember what it was called. I was bored. So I said to her, where do you see girls in tech in all of this? And she said, oh, what do you mean? So I explained very briefly. I said, right, okay. So this was 2017. In 2017, as long as you got access to the internet, you can pretty much do anything and everything you want. Where in your scheme of, empowering girls, a girl child, blah, 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 where does it fit? Because as far as I can see, it's all about clothes, about books and pens. I said, the world doesn't use that anymore. You don't need a pen. You don't need books in that traditional sense. You don't need a writing pad. What you need is a device that you can access all that information. You don't need to have notepads and notepads and notepads of notes because you can store all of that in the cloud. Where is that? Oh, she said, that's really, really good point. Give us your name and number and your address details. And, that's something that we could just say, look, I'm not asking to do it. I don't want to be on the ground. I was just asking the question. It'd be really good to see some progress or something happening in that front. No, nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. And to me, it was just like, but you said you wanted the girls to do well. You wanted them to go further and faster and wider. And I think that the boys are being left behind. I think that the agenda of the girl child also means that the boy child is being left behind. And I think if we're going to create equal opportunities, it has to be exactly just that. If I was to ask you how many, we talk about KA has 597 students, I think, of 2018, 2019. Two-thirds of, I think 297 were girls and 248 were boys. If you multiply that every year at the elite level of education, guess what's going to happen? The boys become the disadvantaged ones. We need to start looking at all this. And I know you guys think, oh, yeah, Mabangila my all the time. Actually, I don't. I just want fairness. I just want fairness. I want, if you're the brightest person in the room at that time, I want you to have a fair opportunity and a fair crack at it. Not because you're a girl or you're from the north or you're, I happen to know Alex or I happen to know Kambani. No, I don't think that should be the case. But as far as technology is concerned, you guys need to start making some noise. Don't lobby the private companies because they're protecting their interests and their investment. You need to start lobbying the government hard. If they've got people in place that don't know what they're doing, and get them to get people, say, you hold that position, is fine. You want to be the face? Fine. But get people in who understand, who will brief you. Donald Trump doesn't understand anything. Yet he runs you think Donald Trump knows anything about anything? He knows nothing. But he wants the Republican Party want him to be the face because that's what gets them the votes. He's not running any of the shows. Boris Johnson, he knows. When I hear ministers here talking about telecoms, I scream at the radio. I'm like, that's not how it works. They've been briefed on a 2-paragraph thing, and they'll just repeat that in 3 different ways on 4 different television shows, and that's it. They don't need to know. They've got people that understand, who don't care for the limelight, and we don't even have that, And this is the time Malawi is like, the way Malawi is so, the way you guys should handle this election business. Let me put it in context. The UK did Brexit. Brexit was fudged. They cheated. And as much democracy and history and all the things, we have failed to get it through the courts, go through the proper processes. Malawians did it. Malawians went, nah, hold on a minute, something's wrong here. We're going to make sure it's right, whether we have external donors or not. We're going to run through this. You have if you guys can achieve that, I don't see why you can't achieve anything. That's what I think. That's why I get frustrated. Not because I don't want to come to Malawi, not because I don't like. I love coming to Malawi, believe me, I do. But I get frustrated that you guys don't see, not you guys per se, but Malawi doesn't see her own beauty. She doesn't see her own potential. She doesn't want to dream big and place herself. Actually, we want to be top 10 in the world for X. There's nothing Malawi has that they say, we're going to be top 10 in the world for this. Nothing. And if Malawi can identify 1, 2, 3 things where they're going to say, India does it, Korea did it, and look at Korea now. Korea was a nothing country 60 years ago. Korea was a nothing country 60 years ago. My handset is a Korean. The cars on my street are Korean. The ovens in my kitchen are Korean. It starts with saying, we want to be top 10 of this in the world. And we're going to make people who do this not pay any tax. We're going to shield them from things that make them fail. That's where the Peters come into the world. That's where the Kambanis, the leaders of industry, the Alexis, we're arguing about nonsense billboards, guys. That billboard is going to change nothing for no one. It will have no impact on improving anybody's life. Nobody but the person who got paid to put that billboard up. I can tell you now. How much time did we spend? Have we ever in a group thought, what can Malawi be top 10 at? Let's really brainstorm this. Never. Never. Anyway, I'm done preaching now. I'm drinking Malawi, and I drink coffee from my mug from there. I don't know if you can see. It's supporteries. Yes. So I support home industries as well as talk. Walk the talk and talk the talk.
That will be the topic of the next podcast. The top 10 for Malawi.
Honestly, challenge it. Put a competition out there. Put it all out to all of Malawi. Say we want Malawi is going to be top 10 at these things, and collect the top 10 answers that come back, and then challenge the government, challenge investors. Alex, you work in the city. You know how to get money out of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Kambani, you guys, we work. You know the law. Even just looking at our class alone, just our class. Never mind, Bole, never mind looking at all the other. Just look at our class. There's no reason we can't deliver on anything we want to.
Absolutely.
I don't know what stops us.
Absolutely.
So. Anyway, when that position comes, Peter, you know, Minister for Speaking.
Is it going to be two? Is it going to Minister for Speaking and what's the other one? Minister of Information Technology.
No, speaking, Bass, just speaking. What I speak about, who knows? Just speaking.
But I think, but before you go, just Brenda, for your benefit, and I know you're very passionate about the ICT. I think one thing that we forgot to mention, I know there's a big project, what they're calling the Digital Malawi project or something like that. That is, of course, being led by the Malawi government. Yeah, so just look it up, Digital Malawi project. It's being, actually there's a K person there. It's actually, there is Zanga Pay Chimombo. I think you guys know Christopher. Christopher.
Yeah, I know Chimombo.
More or less like spearheading that project because it's being handled by the Malawi government, the World Bank, and on the ground here, I think the ones that are really implementing this public-private partnership commission.
Yeah, PPP.
Yes.
Wow,
so I think it's a big project because I think the aim is really to bring ICT to a whole different level because they see it as, obviously ICT is an enabler in terms of sustainable development, issues that we've talked about, education, job creation, and all those areas. So that one is quite big. So if you look it up, I think it's one of the big projects. The idea is to increase access to broadband services and link government services as well to make sure that they are accessible online and all those issues. So I think we're not completely out of it, but I think we just need to focus more to ensure that such projects are really deliver the intended objectives.
Yeah. Delivery must happen. It must happen. It's a pretty big one. $72.4 million committed.
Yeah, wow, that's
huge.
Yeah, that's
three disbursement fees. Okay, they've got the financial activity as of July 31st. Where's the totals? Disbursement. There's quite a lot of money has been disbursed on this already. See, I talk like an accountant now, you see.
I think it's been around for the past maybe a year.
Yeah, 2017. No, it says 2017 when it started.
Yeah.
So 2018. You're right. So the first lot was September 2018. But guys, let me tell you. Yeah, let me just tell you. This is a lot of money. Yeah, for the likes of you and me. But that kind of money, people buy for a house in London. I'm not joking. Well, let's put it in context. Alex's neighbors buy houses in millions of pounds. Yeah, so this is a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. It will make a difference. I am not impressed. How are we going to compete with a world that's spending billions on their infrastructure?
But we need a starting point. So I think
I do agree that it's a starting point.
I don't know whether, because usually what will happen is I don't know whether that is just a component of the World Bank funding, because such projects usually will have an element of government funding and World Bank funding.
Is it being much like? I'll look into it. I won't take too much time on this.
I don't have the details, but I would suspect that will probably be the financing from the World Bank or whoever else is involved.
Wow. Okay. No, that looks.
But
that can be your homework.
Homework? Yeah. I'm not enough working from home. I go to Kusima 3 times a day. Now you're hearing homework. You guys are funny, man.
And which place as well?
I say even the wawa. I don't think Mr. Babin in Malawi is ukani muntu wanchito. Honestly, I am the driver, I am an appealee, I am the guard, I am the one who has to get the car washed. Oh my days. Yeah, I do miss the extra support here, being more readily available. But guys, I have to go. My kids are say hello.
That was really, say hello.
Oh, they can't hear you. They're hungry. They've been neglected. So I'll go and sort them out and finish the day.
Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. They'll cook for themselves. Peter, Alex, I'm not coming on if Peter's coming on. Oh, Kambani, really thank you for that. I'll check it out. I'll do my homework.
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
I will do. I will do. Thank you.
It was really good. Thanks, Brenda.
Yeah. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
All right, guys. So, quite an interesting discussion. Quite a number of technical feedback and all that. So it's really been great. Thanks for you guys. I'm sure you probably spent a fortune on this. On this
we did.
But this is why we need this digital thing to come on, so we can have
it's very important.
Yeah, very important.
Otherwise, this kind of discussions cause here, we can spend time, do strategy and projects and things and stuff, and we need that. So hopefully we'll be. But thanks for coming on. So we'll catch up soon then,
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for the initiative. As well.
Yeah, sure. Make sure push me.
Yeah.
Correct.
We talk, let's definitely talk outside this.
Actually, before we go, sorry, what kind of ulimi is it you're doing? Is it animal or plants or what is it?
We do both. So we're doing I think the larger scale is on the animal side, but we're also doing on the plant side as well. So on the animals, it's basically just doing we do chickens for eggs. So we supply eggs, and also we do we cannot please my measure here, but we're pork producers.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah. So with the goodness with pork, I think it's an area where you can produce quite a lot in a short period, but also because as we know, most of these type of businesses there at present, dominated by maybe the Asians, Indians, and the like. So you find that on the pork side, because of the religion issues, they don't really. So it's not really. There are not that many players, apart from maybe the big one is about Ori. So it's an opportunity that if we can manage it well and try to scale it up, it's something that can can work out. So we do a bit of goats. My wife does quite a lot on the irrigation farming, especially for vegetables and the like. But she's also doing bananas. So there's another side that we're trying to do bananas on a bigger scale. So it's just trying out a few things. Some of them work, some don't. So there's sort of even themselves out in the long term. But I think for the longer term, I think it's mostly the animal farming that we're really looking as well.
You have a site and a farm which is all in one place, or is it different sites?
It's in Blantyre we've got two sites, but all more or less in the similar location in Pemba side, but they're just two separate locations. And there's another place that is just being developed, but in Lilongwe. So so basically those are the sites.
And is the global vision? The vision is to expand that and reach a certain level. In terms of for you just produce and sell. I guess there's no processing or anything that you do.
Yes, so I think at the moment there is no processing yet, but I think that's where we are. I think moving towards. So mostly, it's like the animals, it's mostly just selling them more or less like whole, or you kill them and then just prepare them, but you sell them now to the butchers who prepare them, cut them up. But we want to move in that value chain more or less. I have to say, you actually make more. I think as you are moving from the farm and then open up like butcheries and this where you can actually sell more like value added products, and you can make more money out of that as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's so it's the process that we are going through.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, grab it deep.
Yeah. Sure. I know you're not happy about the
No, it's okay. I'm happy for you because you're making money out of it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
No, thanks for catching up. It was good.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Cheers.
Yeah. Thanks.